guitar. I believe it is a 1964 Gretsch Country Gentleman. Actually, no, I'm wrong. It's a Tennessean. It says it right there on the pick guard. This guitar belongs to Derek. If you guys watch the Casino channel, then maybe you hear us mention Derek sometimes. Derek runs all the video stuff. He does all the editing, shoots all the video, all the technical stuff, and half the time comes up with or helps us come up at least with the topics of the video. So he's sort of the unsung hero of the Casino channel. But this is his guitar, belonged to his dad. Super cool old Gretsch. It's in great condition for a Gretsch from the 60s, man. I mean, like, the binding is mostly intact. Just a cool old guitar. It sounds great. And, I mean, you can see why people love the Gretsch stuff. You can see why people love it in, like, sort of the church circles, the praise and worship stuff. It takes the effects so well, all that delay. And then you can do the rockabilly stuff. You can do blues on it. It's just a fantastic guitar. Derek was kind enough to let me borrow it, so I thought I'd play it a little bit. Put it up on the channel. So yeah, there you go. 64 Gretsch Tennessean. Got a cool old case. Just a cool guitar. So, speaking of Casino guitars, someone asked me in one of the comments, or rather, I guess they didn't ask. They said they'd love to hear the story of how I ended up at Casino Guitars. It's not that long of a story, a little bit, I suppose. I guess, I can make it as in-depth as I wanted. I went into it just a little bit in the video about the Super O, the Royal Reverb, my amp. But I'll go into it a little more in-depth here, since that's something that a few people in the comments sort of have mentioned they'd be interested in. So I was in Nashville. I lived in Nashville. I played on Broadway some, which is if you've never been to Nashville, it's the sort of downtown main street with all the honky tonks. It's Tootsie's and it's Honky Tonk Central and it's the Stage and Legends and all those places, Second Fiddle. And I used to play in a ton of those places. I had certain, guys I'd play for, and if you're down there, you do random pickup gigs. I had a few road gigs. A lot of the guys I played for down there also did stuff on the road. So I was doing that, sort of working my way, or trying to work my way up the ladder in the sort of hierarchy of players down there. So it sort of seems like for a lot of people, you play those Broadway gigs, and then you graduate to sort of road gigs, and you try to get a gig with a major artist. And, a lot of times that's very fluid. So a lot of times the guys who even have gigs for major artists, they're touring, are still playing the Broadway shows when they're off. In fact, I'm doing a show, if you're anywhere near Greensboro, North Carolina, I'm playing a show with a lot of those guys who have major artist gigs. And the guy fronting is actually Montgomery Gentry's bass player, my good friend Jason Duggins, and I met him playing on Broadway. So that's April 9th at the Blonde Tiger if you're out and about. So come see us. We're just having a good old sort of, bit of Nashville style kind of sort of party gig. Of course, it'll be distanced and safe and all that stuff. But April 9th, the Blonde Tiger. Come check it out if you're in Greensboro, North Carolina. But anyways, all that to say, doing the Nashville thing, playing a lot of stuff. I get a call one day to play, it's from a producer. A guy named Eric Nelson was producing a guy who had been on American Idol. And he had finished pretty well, pretty high up in American Idol. He's actually since been on The Voice, and I think finished second on The Voice. His name was Dexter Roberts. Called, said he got my name as a guy who was a good live player, and wanted to know if perhaps I would like to be in Dexter's band. Well, long story short, I went, auditioned, got the gig. The band ended up sort of switching out right before, we actually started really doing gigs hardcore. That was a whole thing. But got the gig, was sort of the band leader slash lead guitar player for Dexter. I sort of just put the band together. Now in some gigs, you're the MD, you're the music director. The guys that I put on this gig were all fantastic musicians. They didn't really need that. I was just sort of the go-between between us and Dexter's label, and it was a very small label, and that was part of the issue. They weren't based in Nashville. They were based out of Illinois. but whatever. So anyways, we're out, we're touring, we're doing festivals. He and I are doing a lot of radio tours. So he's got a single climbing the charts. And if you don't know how that works, when an artist is pushing a single and trying to get stations to play it, you go, for us, it was a lot of these small market to sort of mid-market sort of size radio stations. You go, you do an interview. Some of them are live. We do one live one every morning, like crazy, stupid early. And then the rest, we would sort of pre-record them for the next day or later on in the week. So we do like 3 or so a day. And you go in, you chat with them, you play a couple songs live. That's why I was there, because Dexter was actually a pretty good guitar player, but I would just play lead with him acoustically. There's a ton of those videos of us doing radio stations floating around Facebook and probably on YouTube too that I'm sure you could find. But anyway, so we're out doing that. The band's playing, we do good. We do a few big festivals, a couple club dates. Did a run in Florida. I thought, well, it was going well. You know, it was going pretty good for us in the life cycle of you know, a Nashville artist. He was sort of doing most of the right things and ticking the right boxes. In fact, we were a week out from jumping on a leg of a Keith Urban tour, is what the label and the management had told us. And like I said, we had done a big festival or two, and we're doing some cool things. We're opening for some cool people already. So we were all really pumped. Hit the week that was supposed to happen. We got back from a run in Florida, where we were in Florida for a couple weeks. Had just done a festival where we were on the main stage opening. It was Charlie Daniels and Hank Williams Jr., Big Rich, Love and Theft, I think were the big four. But we were the first of the events, like on the main stage that day. So not on like a weird side stage or, you know, whatever. We were on one of the main stages. Our set went really well. We had people lined up to buy merch. Everybody seemed to dig what we were doing, so we were all pretty darn excited. We got back to Nashville, and it was just radio silence from the label. We were supposed to leave that was a Sunday night. We were supposed to leave that Thursday, play a few shows in Kansas City, and like I said, we were, you know, they had slated some Keith Urban shows, and they had gone so far as to say that it was like a leg of Keith Urban's tour. Now, I say they had gone so far as to say, basically, when they didn't get back to me that week, what happened was they went under. They went bankrupt. The guy who was sort of funding the whole thing had a production company and ran some huge festivals and had a record label. They were all under the same umbrella. And he would like sort of take money from the label, put it in these festivals, knowing or you know, believing that he knew that he'd have enough ticket sales to cover everything in the end. That caught up with him, and he was left sort of holding the bag for a ton of money. It didn't go well. And then it turns out he was, you know, what I heard, he was behind on his taxes. And I won't mention any names, you know. And they sort of screwed me and the band pretty decently. They just kind of left us with nothing. I mean, that was the beginning of the summer. Sort of should have been touring season. We should have been making money and saving it, and we were not. So that happened. While that happened, my wife was pregnant with our second child. I had a 2-year-old, and just a lot of stuff going on. So I went back pretty quickly to playing Broadway. Played some actually really fun shows with a buddy of mine named Casey Edgar. He's got a band out now called Flatland Revival, and their new stuff sounds amazing. It just dropped. So check them out, Flatland Revival. In fact, I think their newest song is called Bible Belt Kid. It's really cool. So if you dig country rock kind of stuff at all, you'll probably like it. Casey's a great songwriter. Even when all the most bro country stuff was going on, he was sort of writing awesome songs, which is why I loved playing with him. But anyways, so playing some Broadway stuff with him, but man, it was just rough. Trying to get that stuff going, burned through some savings, and like I said, I was just sort of coming over that little hump in Nashville where I felt like I was making good money. I mean, I made good money playing Broadway, but I was trying to go sort of to the next level. Thought I was in there. Hit some pretty big speed bumps there. So, like I said, Christy was pregnant. A little bit of a rocky pregnancy. She was a bit sick. my mom's house sort of happened to be mostly unoccupied back in North Carolina. So we decided we would head back to North Carolina, regroup, figure out what was going on, and then I kind of thought we would end up back in Nashville, after a year or something like that. But we get back, my daughter's born super early. Like, in fact, we get back, should have had a while, and she literally was born that next week. She was fine. She was in the NICU a little bit, but not long at all in this relative scheme of things. But made it, doing great. She just turned 5, so everything, all is well on that front. But had my daughter, sort of back. My dad is a farmer. The area I'm from is fairly rural. Lots of land, lots of open space, small town. Turns out I enjoyed that. I didn't realize how much I missed that. My wife had never really lived in a small town. She loved it. My kids loved it. They loved seeing the grandparents all the time. They actually were hanging out with my grandparents, who were 80 but still around, still going strong. So we see them almost every day, and have for 5 years now that we've been back. So that was fantastic. But I had to figure out what I was going to do, because for the longest time I had made a living in music. So I tried teaching some guitar on my own. It was fine. It's just tough to make enough that way without a space. And, once you get a space, you have to pay rent. And didn't really want to do it from my house. I didn't necessarily want to do the online thing. But, whatever. The first year I was back, a good buddy of mine named Alan Craig Miller, who's also a fantastic artist. You can find some of his stuff online, probably. Probably some stuff that I played on is still floating around out there somewhere. But he called and asked if, I wanted to do a run of shows with him. I had played for Alan on and off sort of, probably 5 or 6 years at this point. Like, we would do a project and, maybe take a break. And it was just kind of, he'd call me when he needed a band. So he was ready to do some stuff again. And I said, Alan, I just moved back to North Carolina, so I don't know if I'm your guy. And he's like, hey man, I really want to use you. If you want to play, then we'll get you to Nashville every week. So for probably a solid year, even after I started working at a casino, I was going back to Nashville almost every week on a Wednesday or Thursday, which is about an 8-hour drive from where I live in North Carolina. So I was doing that, playing gigs with Alan. It was fun. But man, that was wearing me out. Somewhere in that when all that was going on, right after I moved back, I was looking for a Supro amp. I had a couple vintage Fender heads. They were kind of redundant. One was a 64 Tremolux, one was a 67 Bandmaster. And I decided I wanted to get rid of one, and I wanted one of the Supros that I'd seen called a Royal Reverb. Like I said, I talked about this in the video a little bit. And I Googled Supro amps. And like I said, I live sort of out in the middle of nowhere. Southern Pines, Pinehurst is a sort of a cool little area in the middle of it, but still not a ton there. It's a big golf town. That's sort of where casino is in Southern Pines. So anyways, on my Google search, Casino Guitars pops up as a Supro dealer. And I'd never heard of Casino Guitars. They weren't there when I left. Mind you, I left North Carolina in the year 2000. This was 2016. So, when I left, there were no great guitar stores anywhere really near me. Without, you had to go to Raleigh or Charlotte or, maybe Fayetteville. And that's what I was thinking, an hour drive somewhere. I'd go play them and check them out. So when I see Southern Pines, I thought, wow, there's a guitar shop in Southern Pines that has Supros. And I thought, well, maybe they're listed, but I doubt they have them. But I jump in my car. It's only a 30-minute drive. Head up that way. Walk in the door, and I am floored right away. There's custom shop Fender stuff hanging on the wall. There are Gretches, like nice Gretches, like, the Pro Series Gretsch stuff. Lots of Fender stuff. There's used Gibson stuff. There's PRS stuff. There's all kinds of things that I just thought this is more like sort of what I was accustomed to, like in Nashville or bigger cities. So I kind of couldn't believe it. Kind of couldn't believe that was in Southern Pines. See a guy behind the counter with strange hair. He's super nice. There's another guy working there who still works at casino now, James. He's been on some videos as well. You guys will probably, maybe know James from some of the videos. Meet Baxter and James, and pretty immediately just wowed by this place I just walked into. And we just kind of become friends pretty much right away. Baxter and I sort of are chatting, tell him I've just come back from Nashville. We had very similar stories. He was doing it sort of in New York City. There's a casino video about that. Broadway in New York versus Broadway in Nashville. Check that out if you haven't seen it. So we're chatting about that. I end up getting the Supro from Baxter, and what was great was Baxter. He sort of brokered the deal. Like, I didn't buy it outright, or I didn't trade him the Fender head outright. He knew a customer of his that wanted a bandmaster, and somehow he called them up and sort of did a three-way sort of switcheroo kind of thing. Basically brokered a trade for me. And this was really funny. This is when I knew Baxter was either sort of crazy or just a really nice, awesome dude. I think I owed him a couple $300 in the deal. And I said, hey man, I'll bring you some cash back and grab that amp at the end of the week. And he was like, oh, just go ahead and take it with you. And I was like, man, are you sure? Because he didn't know me at all. He was like, oh yeah, you're good for it. You'll bring it back. And of course, I did. Pretty soon after that, we started talking about me teaching at casino. And that turned into sort of working in the shop some. And it's really funny. We talked about it for like a year. I sort of thought, well, maybe not quite that long. We talked about it for a long time. Obviously, I stayed in touch. I'd come to the shop. Like I said, the shop's 30, 35 minutes from my house. So not all the time, but a fair amount. We became friends. Like I said, I'd always play when I'd come in. Then we finally get to where they sort of needed a teacher, needed somebody in the shop. I start teaching, and Baxter, they used to do this cool exchange trip from these, in Ireland. There's a sister city to Southern Pines in Ireland. And they would take kids over this like exchange program. And this was their year to go to Ireland. And then the off year, they bring kids from Ireland to Southern Pines, and they play music and do shows with the same group of kids that went to Ireland. It's a really, really cool program. But anyways, they're going to Ireland. They need somebody to watch the shop. I start teaching. I've only been teaching a few weeks. Same thing again. Baxter's just like, hey man, can you watch the shop while we're going? And I was like, sure. I mean, I'd worked in guitar stores before, so no big deal. But yeah, so a few weeks into our professional relationship, I was at the shop essentially by myself for a bit, and that was sort of the beginning of our relationship. And I have been, or as far as me being employed, and I've been there ever since. Then we started doing the YouTube stuff. That took off for whatever reason. You guys like to hear me and Baxter chatter about random things, and we have a good time doing that. So I'm glad that you do. I appreciate it, by the way. So thank you. But yeah, I've been consistently teaching there. My teaching calendar stays really booked there, which is awesome, which I'm grateful for. That sort of makes it so that, I don't have to take as many road gigs or do road gigs. I can kind of pick and choose, do the gigs that I would like to do. That sort of let me have the free time to do my own project, which has been really good. I do a lot of acoustic gigs on my own. I try to do a lot of the trio jams, like what you guys saw from the Hay Street Live thing. Thank you guys so much for the great encouragement and the interest in that, by the way. That's been fantastic. So thanks for watching that whole thing. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'll try to do more of that. And it was such a good production from the folks at the Arts Council of Fayetteville. So that was a huge thing for me. And hopefully when things start opening up, that's going to be a great thing to sort of book some festivals and maybe get out and see some of you guys in person when things start opening back up and live music comes back to different places. So fingers crossed that sooner than later. But anyways, that is sort of how I went from being in Nashville to coming back to North Carolina to landing at Casino Guitars. And I can't really imagine not being at Casino Guitars right now. So no plans to go anywhere. anytime soon. So I think it all worked out. Sometimes things work out the way they're supposed to. I can't imagine having been in Nashville, playing for a living during the lockdown. I felt so bad for a lot of my buddies who were still there doing the Broadway thing or touring, who just lost their gigs immediately. And for people anywhere, not just in Nashville. It hit me hard even here. If I had not had casino, it would have been really a totally different set of circumstances. So super grateful for that. I'm super grateful for that. Super grateful for Baxter and his family and just the casino family. It's been great. So that's the story. If you got questions, let me know. I'll answer them, probably. Unless they're weird and things I shouldn't talk about on the internet, then I'll ignore them. But if they're normal, regular questions, I will do my best to answer them. I'm going to keep making cool videos for you guys as long as you enjoy them. More lesson stuff coming out. I got a slide lesson sort of in the works, some more lick and scale lessons, and hopefully I'll get another one of the backing track deals going out this week where I do the backing track, post that up for you guys, and talk you through my jam over it and a lesson about some aspect of that. So anyways, keep the suggestions for videos coming. I love it. Thank you guys again. If you haven't already, hit like and subscribe. Click the bell so you don't miss videos in the future. And I will see you guys soon, either here or over at the Casino channel. Have a great day. Talk to you next time.